is the Hendrick Hudson School Board of Education meeting. Can I get a motion to open the meeting, please? Can I get a second? Okay. So at this point to the, what?
All in favor?
Oh, all in favor? Sorry, guys. Okay, so at this point, we will be going into executive session, and Hendrick Hudson School District Board of Education will convene for the purpose of in executive session for the purpose of collecting negotiations under the Taylor Law, medical, financial credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment or promotion or demotion or discipline or suspension or removal of a particular person or corporation. Can I get a motion to move into exec, please? Can I get a second? All in favor? Thank you. We will be back at approximately 6:30 for our...
Good evening, everyone. So this evening we are here to honor and send off with a fond salute the many wonderful teachers that have given tons of time and effort, sweat, and tears to our children. Some graduates may even be in this room. So I am going to really quickly turn this over to two of our principals who have the majority of the retirees this year. Let's start with Mrs. Donna Teresi from Frank G. Lindsay.
Good evening, everybody. This is kind of like a bittersweet time because I have had the opportunity to work with Rita, Manny, and Cynthia Neck for 15 years. And together, we built the most wonderful elementary school that anybody can imagine. And our slogan has always been, Frank G. Lindsay, where all your dreams come true. And Cindy has made that. She has strived every day to reach every child and know every child and make it work for every child. And like I always say, coming from the Rayos family, we're like a very good Italian sauce. And every one of us is a special, special herb that adds that sauce. And when you take that herb away, it's never the same sauce. And Cindy, you are really the tomato. The substance of, no, I mean it in a good way. I don't mean it, don't forget, I meant it in a good way because the tomato is the base. And Cindy has been my base for 15 years. She's been the one who's been by my side saying we can do better, we can do more, I know we can. And then she changed the mascot. Remember, Cindy? And that's when I thought I was going to lose my job, but it didn't happen. But Cindy was there. She had a perfect plan, and she changed our mascot to the sailors. And I owe her for that. But she's been on our RTI team. She's been the driving force behind this building, and I love her, and I love Rita with all my heart. And I will truly, truly miss both of you.
So next in line is Blue Mountain Middle School, and they hit the jackpot this year. So I'm going to welcome Mr. John Owens, principal at Blue Mountain Middle School.
Hi, good evening. Come on, retirees. There were 6 of them, so I was going to talk about them as a group. So we have Ms. Sportfigure, PE, Ms. Koch, business, Mr. Priest, orchestra, Ms. Tarracone, language, and Mr. Petrano, social studies. Ms. Karen Boyle is retiring as well, and so is Ms. Reynoso. 17 years ago, I came to the high school and met half these people. A couple years later, I went to the middle school and met the others. A couple years after that, these other ones came from the high school, found our oasis that's swamp adjacent, and joined us at Swamp View Inn in Blue Mountain. It's a very eclectic group, their subject areas and their styles. It shows there's no one perfect kind of a teacher. I will say that they are old school, and I mean that as a car guy, I mean that in all the best ways. They are solid, they're dependable, they're classy. They have a way of enjoying their students and their teaching, but also maintaining these high expectations for student behaviors in a very age-appropriate and old-school way. It's been a great honor and a pleasure to work with all of them, and I wish them luck in retirement.
Thank you.
I know, I sneak up on her like she does to me. But I just wanted an opportunity. In 1992, I came to Hendrick Hudson as a young teacher at Blue Mountain Middle School. And when I remember one of my first memories was walking in the gymnasium and seeing this energetic woman, Energizer Bunny, as like she likes to refer to, just keep going and going and going. And we're 30 years later, and it really hasn't changed. If you walk into her gymnasium with a classroom full of student athletes, she's just always providing energy and teaching them daily about whatever she can for her daily fitness routines. Diana's been a wonderful addition here. She's going to be missed at Blue Mountain. I'm from the physical education and health department. She's always the voice of reason and putting the kids first. And Diana, I just want to say thank you for everything and congratulations to you.
So in addition to the few teachers that both Donna and John mentioned were not with us tonight, there are other people who also could not be with us tonight, and I'd just like to read their names. So Brian Baisley, maintenance mechanic; Matthew Balch, custodian; Robert Benzig, science teacher extraordinaire and longtime instructional leader in science at the high school; Jay Doyle, security; Patricia Keogh, teacher aide; Jill Ling, teacher aide; Timothy Pierce, custodian; Michael Sowen, custodian; Sheila Sincero, teaching assistant. There is, however, one name we haven't mentioned yet, and so I'm going to turn the mic over to Joe Hochreiter, who will speak about Mr. Owens.
Yes, we are losing an icon in our school district, and the rock that has kept Blue Mountain together for 14 years. In July of 2008, Mr. Owens made the move to principal at Blue Mountain Middle School. For 11 months previously, he was the assistant principal there, and for 2 years before coming to Blue Mountain, he worked at the high school as an assistant principal. Before that, he worked for 14 years also at Ossining in a number of different capacities: a social studies teacher, a dean of students, and also an assistant principal. When I came to the school district in 2013, I did what every new administrator does. You do an entry plan, you interview people, you have surveys, you try to learn as much information you can before you step foot on the ground. And the feedback I was hearing from middle school staff and middle school parents, it didn't make sense. The comments about how the school is so vibrant, how there really aren't typical middle school issues, how Mr. Owens gives his staff, particularly the counselors and the teachers that we recognize tonight, enough leeway and professional respect for them to do what's right for their kids. And in education today, or any parents that may send their children to middle schools that aren't Blue Mountain, middle schools are a tough place. First, it's hormone central. Second, kids are coming into their own. There's a lot of separation at that time, whether it's academically or socially or athletically. But somehow, and we're starting to learn how, John Owens made that school a very, very special place. I met with a number of parents in the spring before I became superintendent, and they raved about him. They raved how he was calm, how he was collected, how he was never rattled, but at the same time, he was really kid-friendly. He started an initiative called Town Halls, and he would invite myself and Margaret over to watch the show, he said. And he would have these, it was like Phil Donahue with each of, that's an old reference. Oprah. It's like one of those shows. But he not only commanded the respect of the kids, there was such an energy and give and take between he and the students that it was electric and it was exciting. I would meet with John weekly, most notably or consistently before the pandemic, and we would maybe have 10 minutes of stuff to talk about, and our meetings would last anywhere between 90 and 120 minutes, and Helene would knock on the door and say, "John, you've got to go," or Roseanne at the time, or Carmen was calling for me, and our conversations were always focused about what was important, and at that time, what was important certainly were the activities of the school, but I was honored to have a window into John's life in terms of his passions, his kids' passions, and learning about what makes him an incredible leader. So John and I continued that relationship. He was the DAA, the Administrators Union President, for a number of years, and we had a really long, hard-fought negotiations this year. We decided to do it over lunch. And again, in our own typical fashion, the negotiations lunch, we talked and settled matters in 15 minutes, and then we were able to spend some real special and quality time together that I was certainly valued. So congratulations, John, on a career that is not too common in education today. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for your service to the staff that are here, to the dozens that couldn't make it, and to the thousands of kids and lives that you've impacted. Congratulations.
I'll just add my 2 cents to that. So I'm a little bit newer than Joe is, but I've always loved working with John, and actually the staff at Blue Mountain Middle School. I tell everyone I know, it's the best middle school I've ever worked with, bar none. John and I always kind of saw kids through the same lens. I think the only thing I'm disappointed in his tenure is that we didn't get a dog there. We worked really hard at getting one, but somehow it just fell apart. And I enjoyed all the dog stories we shared over the years as well. So it's been a pleasure. I wish you all of the best, and the best is yet to come. Thank you.
Okay, that makes up our ceremony.
Just like to say congratulations to everybody. This next portion of your lives, I hope, is going to be relaxing and fulfilling and wonderful, and we've greatly appreciated everything you've done here. I know our kids have as well. So thank you so much.
I would say now's the time to escape and enjoy the sunshine, but grab some leftovers before you do.
Is there anybody here this evening that would like to make a comment or a statement about the repair reserve fund? All right, Carmen, for the record, there was nobody who came to comment on the repair reserve fund. Good evening. Tonight is Tuesday, June 14th, and this is the Hendrick Hudson School Board of Education meeting. Will you all please rise for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The board has just returned from executive session, and we are now back in public session. We would like to start by approving the agenda as stated. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please? So moved. Can I get a second? All in favor? Before we continue on with the rest of the agenda, this evening we have a student of distinction joining us.
We do. Joining us is one of our high school students, Tiani Johnson. So Tiani, if you want to come up to the podium and introduce yourself and the program that you participated in at BOCES. And while you get ready for that, I'll let everyone know that Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES is our regional educational partnership center. We work with 18 school districts in northern Westchester County and Putnam counties, and they offer a wide range of programs for students that school districts oftentimes cannot provide. So Tiani was identified by her program as a student of distinction, I believe, for the month of May, and we're here recognizing her as a Hendrick Hudson student here at our June 14th board meeting. So Tiani, before we play a video, because your teachers and other folks you work with wanted to make sure they shared some compliments to you, if you want to let everyone know the program that you participated in at BOCES and why you chose that.
I participated in the architecture and engineering program, and I participated in it because it seemed well, it seemed cool, and I got a lot of encouragement from my dad and my uncle, and I also am close to quite a few women who are in that field.
And can you share with us a little bit how your participation in that program might help you with some decisions you'll make after high school?
Well, a program that we learned how to use is the AutoCAD program, which is a program for drafting and 3D modeling, and I was able to get certified in using that program. So there's one company that in this area relatively that is in need of an AutoCAD technician, so it's a useful thing to go into.
Outstanding. Well, congratulations. I know just for everyone, when students go to the vocational program at BOCES, and your program's in Yorktown, students make a really hard decision because they spend half of their high school day at the BOCES campus and half here at Hendrick Hudson. And your program is 2 years, 11th and 12th grade. Some programs are 3 years, but that's a really tough decision for teenagers to make because sometimes kids can't leave high school. There's too many cool things and they don't want to miss anything. But it takes a really forward-thinking student and someone with a vision that wants to learn something different that we don't always offer at Hendrick Hudson. So congratulations for making a tough choice, and it sounds like it was the right choice. And we're going to play you a recognition video that your teacher sent to us.
Thank you.
Good evening. It is with great pleasure that I join you to announce this month's recipient of the Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES Student of Distinction Award. This significant achievement is for students recognized by our staff for outstanding performance and personal growth. I also want to take a moment to thank you for your continued support. We value our relationship with your school district and look forward to continuing to serve your needs. And now for the Student of Distinction Award.
I'm here to congratulate Tiani Johnson, our Student of Distinction from the Hendrick Hudson School District for the month of June. Tiani is in our architecture program at the Career and Technical Education Center. Our architecture program uses all kinds of technology to learn the latest concepts in designing and building. Tiani certainly stands above all of her students in this program. Again, it is my pleasure to congratulate Tiani Johnson as our Student of Distinction for the month of June from the Hendrick Hudson School District.
Congratulations. Thank you. Sorry, congratulations. Okay. Bree and I are a little bit off sync tonight with the mic work. So that brings us to our consent agenda. Does anybody have anything to pull from the consent agenda this evening? Allie?
I wanted to pull 6.3, fiscal 6.3 regarding the BB cafeteria.
Okay. Anybody else have anything to pull? All right, so can I get a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda? Second? All in favor? All right, so the item that was pulled was fiscal
6.3.
6.3, thank you.
So, Joe, I just wanted to ask about this project. Where is the money coming from? How did we get to this figure of $1.7 million? Are there plans already in place, and what is the timeline for this project?
Sure. I'm going to toss it over to Enrique. He's been working on this project with Anthony Merlini and for that time being with Claire Carey and Josh Cohen, so I'll let him handle some of those.
On the financial side, if you remember, we put $150,000 for next year's budget. We're going to do another $150,000 for the following year budget. That's $300,000. There's going to be about $700,000 coming from the cafeteria fund, and the rest is going to be borrowing. We got to the $1.7 million because that was the estimate from the architects on the cost of doing everything. And we are at the point where the architects our lawyers are reviewing the architectural legal documents. As soon as they approve them, we're going to sign them, they will sign them, and then they will send them to ICD for approval. The idea is that we'll start working in May, June of next year, and we'll do the whole project through the summer.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions about this item? All right, can I get a motion to approve fiscal 6.3? Can I get a second? All in favor? There was one other item that had already been pulled from the consent agenda, and that is our donation. Our donation is for $2,940 for the high school graduating class of 2020. These are for scholarships. There are two specific scholarships that were awarded this money. One is the Marcia Bailey Scholarship, which is from the Hendrick Hudson Math Department. And the second is the Richard Albert Scholarship, which is from the Richard Albert Family Foundation. Thank you very much for those donations, and I'm sure the senior students will be very appreciative. Can I get a motion to approve the, hold on, to approve the donations? Sorry. Second? All in favor? And that will bring us to our superintendent's report.
Yes, I want to update the board and the community, our monthly update on our implementation status of the Princeton plan. We're getting closer, as much as we would like to celebrate the end of the year, we're getting closer to a new year next year in September. So we have been updating you regularly on a number of issues, and these are the ones. So we started with making sure that we had staff assigned to their new schools and room assignments, so everyone knew where they were going to be, principals laid out where grade levels would be located and who would be next to whom or across from whom or so on and so forth. We provided boxes for staff to start packing. We basically said pack as you go and as you feel comfortable, that if you're done with the union to study that you're not going to be touching the rest of the year, feel free to make some decisions about what goes, what stays, what goes meaning what we may not need anymore. The head custodians with the principals and Anthony Merlani have staging areas throughout the school, and mid-year this year the pods arrived, so they've been slowly moving the materials into the pods. All of the schools have identified various year-end celebrations. Those are ongoing. If you have a child in any one of our elementary schools, you know there's something new each day. BV celebrated its 50-year anniversary. They're going to do a capsule dig on Thursday. Today was 5th grade celebrations across all 3 schools. We've had student tours, so students who will be going to a new school next year have been on that campus and toured the building, met with their prospective principal. Late winter, early spring, it was around March that the busing schedule was released. Parents had 5 opportunities to attend meetings with their new principals. A couple were virtual, the others were in person. And then some year-end activities that really culminated today. So we want to tell you what's next. We'll start with today. We had field day across all of the elementary schools, where next year's first graders were at Frank G, led by their phys ed teacher of next year, Joe Bruno, and his staff had a number of activities for students. We had many people there documenting it, so check out our website, Facebook, or Twitter to see what those students were up to. Next year's 2nd and 3rd graders were at BV for field day today, and next year's 4th and 5th graders were at Furnace Woods. So students had an opportunity again to reconnect with one another. We had students remembering who their pen pals were and who they met with earlier in the spring. So that was a great event. We had perfect weather for it. In terms of getting ready for opening school in September, we're asking staff to make sure that they are packed on the 24th of June by 11 p.m. That's when schools close. We shut down schools at 11 p.m. each night, and so schools will be open every day until 11 for staff to finish their packing. The 24th is the last day of school for our staff. Students do not have school that day, so staff, elementary staff will have the day in addition to other half days preceding the 24th to get ready. On the 27th, we're going blue. We want to make sure that everything is rolling on that Monday, the 27th, so that all materials and supplies are in the new school, ready to be set up after the schools are cleaned. You see a gap there, about a 1-month gap between June 26th and July 25th. That's when Anthony Marlini and his guys are going to go through and clean out the classrooms. Make sure that they do a thorough deep cleaning. That includes shampooing and carpeting whatever rugs exist and doing some cleaning the floors, so on and so forth. The goal is to start opening classrooms on July 25th. The week of July 25th, that's the last week of July. What will happen is that as soon as classrooms are ready, they will be released to the teachers. In the past, when obviously we didn't have such an enormous move, we would wait to turn the school over to the principals until later in August. It just allowed less foot traffic in the building so that the entire building could be done and ready before we open the doors for everyone coming in. What we want to absolutely make sure this year is that folks have plenty of time to come in starting as early as the 25th of July to set up. So if 5 rooms are done in all 3, whichever elementary school, Anthony and the custodians will sign off on that. The principals will contact the teachers and say you're more than welcome to come in, make an appointment, come on in, grab your keys, so on and so forth. And those teachers, the principal and custodian, will work to make sure the materials are in the classroom. On August 19th, even though bus runs were previously set out, we're hoping to finalize them. And the reason we're finalizing bus runs is because we have a lot of movement during the year. We have families that have before or after school childcare needs. We have families that have daycare needs. We have families that move in and move out of the district. So I would say while 98% of the bus runs are firm from what we communicated earlier, there is a lot of movement that takes place over the summer. So we will post those bus runs by the 19th. By the 26th of August, all of the classrooms will be released. So staff will have at least, if they're not open before August 26th, they'll at least have that last week of August to get ready. Our staff development conference days on August 31st and September 1st. Those are 2 days that we use for staff development and training. Elementary teachers will also have an opportunity to continue to pack up. So if they weren't able to get in over the summer, that is officially when the school year starts. And then we will welcome parents and students in on September 1st to visit the schools, meet their teachers, visit the classrooms, and be able to have an understanding of what their new school year will look like. The next slide is an internal planning document. It's a management tool we created to make sure all of the things I just said happen. So this is a snapshot picture of operations and maintenance. This is just some of the number of activities that Anthony Merlini and his staff are managing to make sure all of our deadlines are met. This isn't even the full spreadsheet. The spreadsheet goes about another 40% to the right. That shows some graphic design so you can see progress graphically rather than just by a due date. But this is an example of all of the other things that go into making sure schools are ready, that teachers are ready, so on and so forth. And it's not just, while this falls under operations and maintenance, obviously different groups or stakeholders in the district need to participate and play a role in this, namely the principals. Those were some activities that were earlier in the year are ongoing. You see names like Fran Dodaro, who works with Margaret on HR, Vanita Joy, our technology director. So our team cannot, as you can see, cannot work in silos. This isn't just about technology readiness or making sure rooms are clean. There's a lot of overlap and a lot of communication, and we started building out this process using this management tool last May when the decision was to move forward with the Princeton plan. So each department has their own. Vanita, in terms of technology, has her own management plan. Margaret has her own with the 3 elementary principals. Liz Gilio with transportation. So this is sort of the peek behind the curtain as to how we're holding ourselves accountable to make sure that we can get done what we need to get done on those due dates that we'll communicate with families on Friday, so they have an idea of what to expect and when to expect. Now there are some TBDs that are still being worked on. Class lists have gone out to teachers for comment. We want to make sure that we have balance in a number of areas, that we have balance of children coming from 3 different classrooms, that there's representation in next year's classroom, that it's not next year's 5th grade Furnace Woods classroom is just last year's Furnace Woods students. To make sure that there's balance in terms of equity, whether it's student makeup or students with IEPs or what have you. And so there's a lot of communication and dialogue happening between current year teachers and next year's teachers in terms of chemistry that worked well or chemistry perhaps they didn't. We do have parents that are asking for their children to be placed with a friend so that they have someone, a familiar face. By practice, we try not to take those requests, because for every request you take, there's someone who didn't have one or someone who's on the outside looking in. But the teachers are weighing in to that degree to say, these children do well together. They probably should, move together into their new school next year. The principals will identify additional opportunities to engage with their parents over the summer. Those could be virtual or in person. They very likely, if they're going to take place in July or early August, probably would be virtual for 2 reasons. One, schools can look like a war zone when Anthony and his team has them ripped apart. And second, they're very hot in the summer. So we might be able to create more access for families to discuss other questions or concerns they may have with the principal virtually. And then lastly, one of the initiatives of the elementary PTA leaders who we've been meeting with is to identify play dates and meetups for parents to meet each other, for kids to meet each other, and to provide some social interaction over the summer in advance of opening the school year. So what we will do is we will post this information to our dedicated website, and throughout the summer we'll provide weekly updates to make sure that we're on target to meet these deadlines, so that everyone understands what to expect and when to expect it, so there are no surprises. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions?
I just got one question. So Joe, thanks for this. I think this is great. I think we're all looking forward to continued updates each of the board meetings, so the people who are watching in, they can expect to see these at every meeting going forward until we implement. One of the questions that I wanted to ask was about the overall budget for this move. Like, what are the cost implications, and what is the budget, so that people outside the board get an understanding of what the cost implications are?
So I'll need to bring that to our June 29th meeting, but there are a couple of different cost centers. One is around staff moving. Because of this, we have limited staff development or new initiatives that we're kicking off at the elementary level. So we've identified resources that will be used for teachers that may need basically overtime or to come in over the summer to set up. So I'll be able to get that number to you. Anthony has a budget with some outside contractors, whether that was purchasing boxes or extra folks to move or to help move, so we can bring that on the 29th, but I don't have that with me.
I assume the pods too, right?
And the pods, yep. Absolutely, yep, we can cost that out for you.
Okay, thank you.
Mine was kind of a financial question as well. We do this deep cleaning every summer in all of our schools. So have we hired additional staff, like temporary staff workers? Are we planning on overtime to get not only the regular cleaning that we always do, but also the logistics from building to building? How are we managing that?
Yeah, we know that we are hiring extra student helpers this year to work with the custodians. And that those student helpers will be really important because the extra work is really going to be transporting boxes from whatever the holding center will be in that school to those classrooms. So there may be overtime. That's going to be a spot check that Anthony and his team will do based on what might be uncovered in a deep clean. If we need to replace a carpet quickly or replace some tile, that's normal. That's not unexpected. But it's very similar to a construction project, and why you budget a contingency, because if you rip out a wall and find asbestos, then you've got a different problem. But we can bring that back on the 29th too, in terms of how we budget for that and how we budget our staff, really, not financially budget, but allocate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Joe, for that update. Sure. That was it for your superintendent's update. So tonight we have two presentations. One is the middle school academic program update, and the second one is the high school academic program update. They're going in the order of our agenda, then the middle school is first.
So before he retires, we couldn't let Mr. Owens leave without doing a little bit of a victory lap and sharing some of the exciting initiatives at the middle school and what the middle school will aspire to work on in his retirement. But he's here to say that when those initiatives are successful, he was here on June 14th to communicate them, so we can thank him.
You can text me how that all worked out. This is Dr. Wynn, a psychologist for the district. I literally phoned a friend, brought in an expert. A chunk of this presentation has to do with social emotional learning and some related topics, so she's going to take the lead in some of those. So the next slide shows us that 3 points of pride is that we have implemented an executive functioning course. Dr. Wynn did the training, and she's going to do some additional training for some new teachers that are going to do it. We hired, we're in the process of hiring our new staff to replace the retirees we recognized earlier, as well as the principal, and we've been implementing our next generation science standards. Executive functioning started out as part of our Unified Arts rotation. Unified Arts, for lack, it doesn't have a really good name because it's always an insult when you call it non-academic, but you call those academic classes the core academic, or the science, social studies, math, and ELA. So these are those encore classes, they're called sometimes, specials, they're called other times, and I inherited Blue Mountain calling them Unified Arts. So all 3 grade levels twice a day rotate through health and technology and phys ed and art and music and all those sorts of things. So that's what Unified Arts means. And this past year we had, as 1 quarter for all 6th graders, they had this executive functioning course. It's instruction to all 6th graders in the first quarter. During next year is the plan to have 6th grade teachers actually teach them. So we have so what they did was they rotated through this year. So it took 4 quarters to get all the 6th graders through. And anybody who had any exposure to the program thinks that it's valuable and beneficial, and the sooner the better. So we have a plan so that all the 6th graders receive it at the first quarter of next year. The course prioritizes attention, focus, organization, time management, memory, and self-regulation in an age-appropriate manner. Next one for me, thanks. Hiring, we're wrapping up. Some are easier than others. There's a much deeper pool for a 7th grade social studies teacher than there is for a language teacher, or even more so for the family and consumer science teacher. So some of those are still underway, but most of them are wrapped up. You have your new principal, Ms. Lauren Scollins, is on board. She's met with the administrators of Blue Mountain. We've toured and spoken privately. She guest hosted our June faculty meeting, so the whole meeting was hers, and she did a presentation for the staff and had them up and out of their seats doing a hands-on activity in order to gather some intel as to where she might want to address, focus her attention next year. She's got a plan to meet with every single teacher and staff member, whether it's digitally or a walk or a coffee, and she's underway doing it, so good for her. She attended the last PTA meeting and stayed through the Ask a 6th Grader event that the PTA puts on. panel of sixth graders on stage, and then fifth graders were able to ask questions. So Ms. Collins heard a lot about Blue Mountain via that presentation, so now she can figure out what she has to fix. Next generation, New York State, one of the best things they've done in maybe ever, but they did it well. They came up with a new science curriculum. It's actually just what you would want to see. The students, it's very hands-on, it's very inquiry-based. You know, it's not a lecture on the solar system. It's here's a bunch of stuff, and then play with it and figure some things out and ask some questions. It's very online. It's very, if there's anything that you would call a text, it's really a compilation of the students' work. They actually keep track of what they've done and put that together in a folder or a binder. So it's very much what education should look like. So 7th grade, the current 7th graders have that program in 6th and then 7th. We intertwine two of the elements of the sciences, the physical and the earth. Thank you, earth science. And then the life science will be done in 8th grade next year. So that's underway. Next one. All right, 2 priorities. This is where we're going to segue to my expert phone friend here. Creation and implementation of a social emotional learning program and development of a multi-tiered system of supports, MTSS. We have to learn some new initials from what I've come to recently understand. So MTSS is sort of the bigger umbrella. A lot of the work we've already been doing will be folded into MTSS. Blue Mountain for years has had a very effective series of meetings with the social workers and our RTI process. So we have these meetings, and concerns about students are brought to a panel. Dr. Wynn's part of those as well. We have our counseling center meetings. Dr. Wynn's part of those as well, with social workers and psychologists and school counselors. So within that, we're going to extend some of the efforts there. The next one. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Wynn, and if you need me, I'll be right here.
So we really realized that we have DBT at the secondary level, but that's mainly for pull-out support on Tier 2 and Tier 3 when students are already having issues with managing their emotions and managing students and relationships. We really saw the need for a Tier 1 SEL intervention where we can hit all students with the same vocabulary. We did a Tier 1 SEL intervention on the elementary level, and that really reduced counseling need, and it gave students vocabulary and ability to communicate with each other when they were feeling stressed or upset. And we're looking for age-appropriate SEL programs to be instituted across the school. And there are many programs, so we researched some this year, we're researching some next year, hoping to select the final program in the fall with implementation in the 2023 to 2024 school year. For MTSS, we really have focused on RTI for academics, for reading, writing, math. MTSS says we need to integrate everything all together. So for example, for the middle school, we have counseling center meetings where we talk about the social and emotional concerns and supports that some students need. And then we have a separate IST team where we talk about the academics. So we're trying to integrate the both together to form an MTSS system across the tiers. So Tier 1 would be school-wide, all students with the typical benchmarks, and we're hoping to integrate the SEL Tier 1 program in it so you can really further assess the social and emotional performance of all kids. Tier 2 would be a more intensified small group, and Tier 3 would be even more intense for students who need that intense support.
Okay, in 3 years, let me know how it turns out. But middle school wants to continue to be a cutting-edge, dynamic, engaging 21st century middle school, building a grade 4 through 8 campus feel in partnership with Furnace Woods. And that concludes our presentation.
Thank you both. Thank you both. Are there any questions? Jen?
So are we not doing living environment in 7th and 8th grade anymore going forward?
Living environment will become a part of 8th grade. It'll be a 1-year program going forward with a lab period, like most traditional middle schools do.
So they'll still have the option to take the Regents in 8th grade as they have.
Yes.
So that's I love the fact that we introduced executive functioning. Oh, sorry. Is that something that, and I don't know from your perspective, is this something that Furnace Woods could perhaps bring to 4th and 5th graders, maybe 5th graders? Because it seems like such an awesome category, and the sooner the better, as you said. I don't know if there's a way to intro them now that they're all together in Furnace Woods.
So we're currently utilizing a SMARTS executive functioning program. It's called SMARTS EF, in case you want to Google it. And it's from Massachusetts. It's evidence-based. There's an elementary version. So our school counselor, Dr. Lupiani, the school psychologist, and several other members were already trained on the elementary level for the elementary worksheets. And then we have the secondary level, so that's middle school and high school. So we're already having small pockets of the support there. We don't have the full course like it was in the middle school.
Awesome. Thank you. My question was about unified arts, about which classes are required, how many credits each student needs in each category, how the electives work, how it affects supplements sometimes. I'm just not clear how it all works.
You have a 9-period day, take away lunch, you have 8, math, social studies, science, and English, and let's go to 7th and 8th grade. It's a little easier because you have a language other than English. So now we're up to 6 periods out of a 9-period day. So there's only 3 left. 2 out of those 3 would be those unified art cycles. So, and that's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade twice a day. So, for example, they would have physical education and an art every other day, or physical education and the music every other day for 1 period of the day. And then the other one would be this rotation with technology and digital literacy, health, and those courses, and they rotate through those. So the only thing left is supplement, and supplement is the time when we can, there's not a lot of room for electives in middle school, so supplement's that one spot where we can sneak some of those in. Supplement is like a structured study hall. Other students receive more intensive services, tier services, AIS, academic interventions, things like that. Supplement, if you're in band, orchestra, or chorus, that takes away from your supplement. So that's why some students do not have a supplement. Counselors try real hard to make sure that the students have supplement at least every other day. But if you're going to try to do advanced art in 8th grade and you're in orchestra and in chorus, then you're not going to have a supplement.
So when it comes to classes like health or art, is there a minimum requirement per the need to have certain credits over the course of 3 years? My kid's going to take health twice and art.
Yes, so the New York State regs have Part 100, they call it. It's got all these requirements. It's a little tricky because they count 6th grade as part of elementary, and they call them units, not credits. And you have to kind of, I'm like, what are we doing? But to answer your question, basically that's. A typical student would probably have health all 3 years because they do those rotations 3 times, and of course, different instruction each time. What would keep a student from having that would be if they need more intensive help in like math or ELA. They might have a smaller group instruction if they have deficits in math or ELA.
Thank you.
Can you just go over briefly again for the audience what tier 1, 2, and 3 are?
So tier 1 is every student, school-wide across all the schools, and you think benchmarks. So we have the iReady benchmarks, LLI benchmarks. Tier 2 is when, hey, there's some concerns being brought up at the tier 1 level. Maybe the benchmarks are a couple of grades below. Maybe the student has had a couple of behavioral incidents that are targeted on Infinite Campus, or maybe the student has had a lot of absences lately. So then it goes into a tier 1 where the teachers talk and say, what extra interventions can we have in the classroom? Tier 2 includes tier 1 and then also has a little bit extra that the teacher may do in the classroom. It may have pull-out services near the end of tier 2, but tier 2 always starts in the classroom. Tier 3 is the student has tier 1 interventions, tier 2 interventions, they're still struggling. We really see great need for support in either academics or social emotional concerns, needing counseling, so then that is a pull-out service. And the caveat is that everyone receives tier 1, a shorter proportion of the student population receives tier 2, and then an even smaller receive tier 3, with the hope that we get the students where they need it as fast as possible, so they don't need to keep on going up the tiers. They get the support right when they need it.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? All right, thank you both very much. And next we'll have our high school academic program update.
On behalf of the high school administration, we'd like to thank the Board of Education for their continued support and for giving us a few minutes here to speak and do our presentation. John phoned a friend, I phoned two friends. So I have Mr. Nick Kitsaris, who's another one of the high school administrators, and Ms. Melissa Barthelmess, who's one of our outstanding teachers, who's also part of some of the initiatives that we'll talk about this evening. Please go to the next slide. 3 initiatives going well at the high school is our response to intervention process and our response to intervention team. We did mirror our team and process to how the middle school runs it as well. So Dr. Lynn and I have been in constant communication regarding the implementation of our RTI team at the high school. Ms. Barthelmess has been an instrumental part of that team as well, so she'll speak to that in a minute. We do have a high school learning lab that we put in place this year for some at-risk students. One of our teaching assistants has taken some students under her wing that might be at risk of graduating, as well as some underclassmen as well. And the role of Schoology, our new learning management system, which teachers seem to find very highly effective. Again, Ms. Barthelmess is also part of that initiative as well. So moving into RTI, I'll have Ms. Barthelmess speak to it for us.
Hi. So we have as you can see, we have a multi-tiered approach to early identification and supports of students with academic and behavioral needs. And what's really helpful as a team and what I participate in doing is helping teachers and departments with Tier 1 intervention services, which was explained briefly by Dr. Wynn. Thank you for that. And so I help the team, help the departments and other teachers with the referral process, the observation process, and the Tier 1 intervention process. And it's been very, very successful, and it's something that's very fulfilling to me to do. We have teachers, guidance counselors, support staff that refer the students to the RTI and TSS team. We actually have combined our teams into one team, as you mentioned, from the middle school. So we've actually made that move so that we have the social workers and the guidance counselors and the teachers and the academic programs all on one team so that we can move the process faster so that students get the help that they need as soon as possible. It's all about the student success, making sure that we identify their skills and needs as soon as we can so that they can feel that they're successful in their classes. The other thing I think I mentioned is that it's all about making sure that we identify those students who may need further Tier 2 or Tier 3 identifications and maybe even possibly move to classification. So we work with the special education department closely on that as well, because we want to make sure that every student is successful in Henry Hudson. All right, so that's RTI.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to share some of our success stories this year. We'll start with the Learning Lab. This year, being the first year having the Learning Lab, I feel we had tremendous success. Through the pandemic and the last 2 years of hybrid and remote instruction, we wanted to prepare an academic support space, specifically for seniors, that may need support with executive functioning. That's the word to it, right? And staying on track with assignments. When students were identified, Mrs. LaFemina, who collaborated with teachers, did an amazing job communicating and reminding students of their upcoming class assignments or exams, as well as supporting students with study skills, strategies, time management, organization, and how to plan ahead. With Mrs. LaFemina's support and endless encouragement, a number of seniors have fulfilled their class requirements and are eligible for graduation. So kudos to Mrs. LaFemina and her hard work and dedication. We really appreciate her for doing such an amazing job. Another success story we had this year was Schoology. It's our learning management system platform. It's been a great tool for both our students and staff. We've been working collaboratively with Ms. Benita Joy, our Director of Technology, Ms. Stephanie Geiger, lead technology coach in the high school, as well as other tech coaches, Randy Hall from Elric, and Schoology representatives provide more in-depth training professional learning opportunities for staff. Teachers will continue using the platform not only as an instructional tool, but also for communicating purposes, where key due dates for assignments or exams are identified, notes and supplemental materials for student learning are organized and shared, and grades are documented and synced within campus to name a few. Our students have also been using Schoology as a tool to communicate with one another. This includes our student government and clubs who have been using Schoology to communicate with the rest of the student body, important dates or events happening throughout the school year. I'm also going to top back in. This is Martha Smith to share some of her classroom experiences using Schoology.
I'm back. So, as someone who is using Schoology, I have to tell you it is a fantastic learning platform. It is extremely powerful. It's very similar to, like, let's say a collegiate level Blackboard system that you might be familiar with. I think it really prepares students for post-secondary success because not only of the communication aspects, but because you can also integrate full lesson design into Schoology. I mean, talk about excitement. I mean, you can put your objectives in there, your, introduction to the unit, you can put in videos, you can put in yourself, I mean, it's just so much fun to create your curriculum in a space that allows students full access to everything. So it's not just like class notes, it's everything, including full transparency on learning objectives and what the state's requiring. Like I'm 12th grade advanced placement, so I'm transparent in like the College Board standards. It's just all right there for the students to kind of work through. And it's just an amazing platform and I really enjoy it. I like the grade book because it's integrated with Infinite Campus, which is really powerful. So, the biggest thing is making sure you communicate with parents which grades are the most accurate, right? Which ones are the most up to date, are the Schoology or the Infinite Campus ones. But usually, like my go-to is like every 2 weeks. Like I make sure that I update and like integrate Schoology grade book with the Infinite Campus grade book. And like I said, it's just an amazing platform from which to just really be, the key word here is transparency. Because the students are just so into what you're doing and they're like, oh, I know where we're going next. It's just an extremely powerful tool. And, I'm excited to see the further Schoology trainings that they have. I was someone who was like really excited when they first launched that I watched all the videos on my own because I was like, why not? But it was really just a great opportunity for, helping the students out with communication and whether you're using the update section or you're using a page or you're using the integration with Google technology, so all Google Docs can go in there, which is fantastic. I use Turnitin.com, which is an originality checker, and that is integrated into Schoology. So what's really fantastic is that you're not having these billions of platforms that are everywhere, and the students are like, where do I go? Where do I go? Where do I put it? No, everything goes to Schoology.
I guess you like Schoology, don't you?
I'm warming up.
Maybe we can have you do some professional development. So the 2 priorities we identified moving into next year is our high impact learning environments and professional learning opportunities for both staff and students. Currently we're working with Meteor. If you could please go to the next slide. The Meteor Group, we do work with a consultant, Linda Gail Walker. Over the past few years, she's worked with specific cohorts of teachers, of which Melissa is one of the teachers. Our goal this year is to roll it to the departments so that we can get this out to the entire building so that everybody is involved with the Meteor. I think those of you who were on the tour this year of the high school got to see some classrooms, got to see some of the furniture, got to see how that furniture impacted learning experiences. It goes even deeper than that. It goes into goal setting. It goes into collaborative tasks. Linda Gail Walker, our Meteor consultant, is excellent. The teachers respond very well to her. And we want to keep that initiative moving forward. And again, go past the cohorts and move into the departments to get this going school-wide. So I don't know if you want to talk about your experience with Meteor.
Sure, why not? I'm back. So what I really love about the Meteor program is having an opportunity to talk pedagogy. I and work with colleagues. I mean, it's just really fantastic to have conversations about curriculum and decisions that you make, and thinking about how can I make this experience a meaningful one? How can I make this a challenging one? How can I make this maybe even a little bit more rigorous? How can I make this more real world? And learn what your colleagues are doing. And then have a conversation about moving that into your classroom and having these beautiful collaborative experiences where the students are in charge of their learning. It's really fantastic. You know, from the learning norms where they create norms where they decide how they're going to work with each other, what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, when the due dates might be, how they're going to break the project apart, and then who's accountable for what piece. And then, you know, what's really great is that you become this facilitator of, you know, magical experiences for students that they can take with them that are lifelong. And so the Meteor program allows for those conversations, and it also allows for educators to hone their craft. I mean, really seriously, we have to continue learning in this position. I mean, I really truly believe as a teacher that the moment we stop learning, we're done, right? Done. So like, keep learning, keep having the conversations, and keep improving your curriculum so that the students get the most out of what they possibly get out of the classroom. Like for me, English literature is alive, it's living, it's breathing, it's acting, it's drama, it's everything you need to be successful, whether you're going to be an engineer or a lawyer or you're going to be an HVAC tech. You know, it's like you need to be able to be a thinker, and that's what the Meteor program allows us to do, is to hone our craft even further so that we can become even better master teachers and educators for students, because they deserve the best. So I really like Meteor too.
Thanks, Ms. Martinez. Again, our second priority is to develop professional learning opportunities. We'd like to have a calendar developed this summer for the first semester, if not the entire school year, so that teachers can use time during faculty meetings, during superintendent conferences, during early release days, during department time, to work on initiatives that will focus around academics, technology, social and emotional learning. But the plan is to have teachers aware of what that professional development calendar is in the summer going into the next school year. Again, utilizing those times that teachers are together. In 3 years, we aspire to be a school community that supports and serves the needs of all members and is aligned with the district's strategic plan. This year, I got to serve on the strategic planning committee. It was a great experience. I worked with the student engagement pillar. Moving forward, we want to make sure that all that we do here at the high school hits the 4 pillars: student engagement, real world experiences, clear and targeted communication, and shared decision making as well. So being a part of that strategic planning committee has really prepared me to move so many things forward. Just a couple of highlights. You know, at the high school, we offer 20 to 23 roughly each year advanced placement courses and a number of additional college level courses. This year we had 410 advanced placement course enrollments. We had 391 college enrollments as well. We were distinguished as a Project Lead the Way School of Distinction again for the 5th year in a row. That's thanks to the work of our Project Lead the Way teachers and the support of the board in supporting that program. So we are proud of those accomplishments. Our graduation rate over the last 5 years has been a little bit under 95%. This year projected, we're at 96%. Out of 197 graduates, 190 are set to go. We still have 2 in the GED program. We still have 5 that we have to account for. So that number could change as well. But again, the 5-year average is a little bit under 95%. Our projected number this year is 96%. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Jen?
Is the learning lab, is it planned to remain in place?
Yes.
And then, so what does a Tier 1 RTI look like for an incoming high school student? Like what program? Sorry.
No, it's not going available. Tier 1 intervention would be whatever the classroom intervention the teacher attempts in the classroom. And that's mostly for the entire, it's for the entire class. If the
What'd you say?
A graphic organizer.
Okay.
redirection, seating,
So something general that's taught at the classroom.
something that you can handle within the classroom.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, if the students do not respond to those interventions, then the teacher will document the attempts and gather data, and then that will become a referral if the teacher's interventions are not being successful.
And then incoming freshmen, are they given some tutorials on schoology? Am I saying schoology?
Schoology, yeah. We have done that in the past, and we will continue to do that. We do meet with kids in August to have an ice cream social, so that might be a nice time to do that with them. We have 7 tech coaches, I believe, at the high school that are very well trained in Schoology. We rely on them as well to provide professional development for our teachers. In the past, Mrs. Geiger has made a video for the kids when we first rolled this out during COVID, and she was able to email it out to the kids and out to the families. Parents will have access as well. We do give you an access code to access your students' Schoology account, so you'll be able to see it as you would see the Infinite Campus.
That's it, thanks.
Anybody else? Wow, this is an excellent report. There aren't any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so that ends our presentations and discussions for tonight. That will bring us to our audience comments section. During this portion of the board meeting, the board has established the following guidelines for those wishing to address the board. Each speaker should sign in with the district clerk prior to commenting. When called, each speaker should step up to the podium and state their name and affiliation if applicable prior to starting their comment. Letters, petitions, or other written material should be handed to the district clerk. Each speaker is permitted 3 minutes for their comments and must be recognized by the board president. All comments must be directed to the board. The board will listen to comments but will not necessarily debate or discuss items. Operational matters will be directed to school administrators for handling. The board is not permitted to address personnel or individual student matters in open session. The board may limit repetitive comments in order to give time to others wishing to speak, as well as to maintain meeting efficiency. The board expects comments to be made without interference from the audience and in a civil manner. So everybody signed up for comments this evening?
There is for non-agenda, not.
Non-agenda?
No, I thought I just had to sign it. Oh, sorry. Okay, I needed to sign it. Apologies.
So, are you speaking or not speaking?
I'm not, no, I'm not.
Okay.
Okay, direct me to the table. I just need to
Oh, okay. Okay, that's great, that's fine.
Sorry.
All right, so there are no speakers this evening. And that will bring us to our committee reports, which is, anybody have committee reports before we go to our policy meetings, which is our policy committee? Okay, so we'll go to our policy meetings. Who's introducing minutes? Lisa did it last week, so.
Okay.
Before we talk about it this week.
Okay. So this is. All right, so the first one we have is 0101 for gender neutral single occupancy bathrooms. We actually did see some example signage too that was circulated, which I thought was very representative of what we're trying to do here. So let me go through the reading until someone might jump in. Gender neutral single occupancy bathrooms. All single occupancy bathroom facilities.
Motion to move reading on policy 0101, please.
Anyone a second?
Thank you. No, actually, I have to say.
No, you don't have to say.
You can waive further reading. I think you have to second.
Okay.
All right, so does anybody have any questions? We've already done a first reading on this policy. I'm sorry, it's very bright here until the sun goes down. Does anybody have any questions on this policy? This is our second reading, so we discussed it a little bit last time.
I have a question on the policy. So are we implementing this by the fall of next year?
Yes.
How's it?
All right, can I get a motion to approve policy 0101?
So moved.
Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, next policy. 0110, sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is against federal and state law. The board is
Motion to move
committed.
further reading on policy 0110.
Okay.
Yep. Anybody have
Any
All
questions?
right, anybody have any questions on policy 0110? This is also a second reading. We discussed it at the last meeting as well. All right, can I get a motion to approve policy 0110? Can I get a second? All in favor? Thank you. And our last policy.
Okay. 0115, student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention. The Board of Education is committed to providing an educational and working environment.
Move to waive further reading.
Thank you. All right, does anybody have any questions on policy 0115?
I do. So my question is, will this policy, will the new language affect our current practices, procedures that we're currently doing now?
Yeah, typically what happens with these policies is what comes with them are recommended practices. So we'll compare our existing practice with what's recommended and make those adjustments. Typically when you get to policies of sexual harassment or bullying, you take the best practice from, in this case, NISBA, but also from various training that we would receive from BOCES or even our attorneys in terms of the investigative process. So there's wiggle room. It's not a rubber stamp that the regulation that comes with this is what we would do. It's oftentimes based on what staff you have. Sometimes it's a HR director may lead the investigation, sometimes a principal, sometimes a school counselor, depending on what the issue is and comfort level. So we'll compare the two, and then we'll look at making sure all the gaps are filled.
Thank you.
I believe there'll also be some updates to the code of conduct related to some of these policies as well.
Any other questions on this policy? All right, can I get a motion to approve policy 0115?
So moved.
Can I get a second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. All right, so that finishes up our policy readings, which will bring us to board comments and new business. Does anybody have board comments or new business? Please be with me. Looks like no board comments or new business, which brings us to our second audience comment section on non-agenda items. We have no members of the public signed up for this audience comment section. So this evening we will be adjourning to a second executive session. And the executive session will be for the purposes of collective negotiations under the Taylor Law, medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment or promotion or demotion or discipline or suspension or removal of a particular person or corporation. And I think before I go ask for the motion, so this is going to be the end of the public portion of the meeting. We're not expecting to come back into our public meeting for any kind of action or votes or any other comments. We'll be closing the meeting after exec. Our next meeting will be on June 29th. And at that point, we are hoping, and 99% sure, we're going to have a strategic plan update, so that'll be a good meeting. And that's it. All right, so can I get a motion to move into exec?
So moved.
Can I get a second? All in favor? Aye. Public, happy